And let me tell you why. One of the things that I've done is I've gotten to do, working at the Ella Baker Center, is organize around with families whose young people are in California's youth prison system. And, you know, one of our members, this woman by the name of Laura, her son, was during summer, her son, who was like 16, was over at his friend's house, and they were smoking weed. And they got high, and they thought it would be fun to light the fluid coming out of hairspray can. Now, you probably not being high, I'm hoping, right now, could see that that's not a bright idea.
Indoors.
Thank you. Even outdoors is probably not a great idea, but indoors it certainly was a very poor idea. But certainly not malice, just a dumbass high idea. And it turns out that the couch caught on fire. So they're in an apartment building, couch caught on fire, and they tried to put it out, but they high and they didn't. And so they go from door to door, banging, letting people know that the building's now on fire. There's an elder gentleman who lives on one of the floors who suffers smoke inhalation, doesn't get out fast enough, doesn't die, but just, he's in the hospital for a couple weeks. My friend Laura, our member, her son is sent to the California youth prison system. He was sent there initially for a year, ended up serving 5.5. Because it was for rehabilitation, and they just kept saying, well, you're not done yet. You're not fixed yet. It's not right yet. And so I got to sit and talk with people on the staff of the governor. And I said, with Laura, and I said, look, this was not a bright thing that he did. But which of your sons, this is we're sitting in your office, and I see a picture of your beautiful little boys over there. Which of your little boys would you let go to the California youth prison system if they made this mistake? And he said, oh, none of them. And so I said, well, why is it okay for this woman's son? Right? Why is it okay for her son? And it's because it's her son. And that's this piece around them and us. There's us, and then there's them. Right? And this is this idea that starts to break it down, where people can do things that are absolutely horrible to one another. Because there's us and then there's them. There's the un-us, or the unhuman. And so, when you look at why would somebody, spend millions of dollars to patrol, police, and incarcerate, and put on probation young black men, as opposed to just, pay for them to go to school. Right? So there was this guy. Turns out he had a rumored cocaine problem, an admitted alcohol problem, went to Yale, got C's, barely showed up. Best thing he did was he was a cheerleader there. He was really good at that. But he fooled around, started some businesses, didn't go nowhere, but fooled around and became 43rd President of the United States of America. His name was George W. Bush. Now, if one of your neighbors might have a rumored drug problem and a drinking habit, fool around, get locked up one time, that's a wrap. You can't somehow come. I mean, and it didn't really work out so well to have GW as president. But I'm just saying, he got a second chance, and it's debatable whether or not he deserves. Well, I think everybody deserves a second chance. But so we know what can happen if you invest in people. If you go to Yale and you get C's, you still get to become president. Right? If you sit in this classroom and get C's, and certainly if you sit over at one of these public schools here in the city of Oakland and get C's, that's not where you land up. That door is shut in so many others. And that's because this idea that folks aren't human. So, or that folks are somehow separate, that there's a difference, right? This idea of pollution. But one of the things that we decided in this country was, we're not going to have no more pollution over here. We're going to shut down all these dirty, polluting industries. I'm going to send them to China. And now all the stuff that's a lot of dirty stuff we get we get them produced in China. Well, they just did a study very recently in LA, and what they found out is a third of the smog and air pollution in Los Angeles is coming from China. From all that wonderful stuff that they're producing in China that we get to buy for cheap without environmental controls, well, the air just blows right on over here, right into the Los Angeles basin, in pools right there. It turns out there's only one planet. There's not two planets. It turns out there's only one human race. There's not two human races. It turns out there's just one. And while the world is absolutely huge and big, right, it's also infinitely small. Now, whether you believe in the sort of Christian, Muslim, Jewish faith of, in the beginning there was God, right? That's how it starts, right? And then everything from there, guess what that is? You can't take something and then make something else from it and then not have it be that. If you have lemons and you make something with lemon, you're going to make lemonade. That's lemonade. You can't be like, no, that's orangeade. You had no oranges, you had lemons. Right? Now you might go make some lemon cake, and then you're going to say, well, no, that's 7-Up cake. No, you had lemons. That's lemon cake. So if you go that route, well, maybe some of you don't go that route. Maybe some of you, you scientific. You with the new math. I appreciate that. So what science tells us now then is, at some point, billions of years ago, everything in this universe was compressed down into one small, infinitesimally small, minute thing, and then it expanded and exploded, turned into stars, and so everything comes from that. Now I would call that, just given who I am and how I get down, I would call that God, but let's just call it stuff for a second. So in the beginning there was stuff. Now we're all part of that stuff, right? So everything, if you go that route, then everything on this planet came from stardust, because at one point it was all in a star, right? That's a beautiful thought. So it's all the same thing. It's all God. Every single piece of it. And when you look at a lot of our native traditions from where a lot of us came from, in Africa, Asia, Latin America, in Europe, you go back and people understood that it was all sacred, all holy, all one. There wasn't no separation. It wasn't me and that rock. No, right? But we've been told that it's separate, it's different. And distinction is important and helpful. But when we start to make it like real, so it means there's no space. So for us, one of the things we wanted to really make sure and be clear about was we actually need spiritual connection.